Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios of turning superheroes into dragons. According to him, this episode is going to feature hitters from The Boys, Invincible, Hellboy, and one more. Let's hop in.
In the past, I've turned tons of Marvel superheroes into dragons, DC superheroes into dragons, anime
Nice.
superheroes into dragons, but
Nice.
there's plenty of superheroes in pop culture that my subscribers have asked me to work with that don't fit into
Huh.
any of those categories. So today I'm finally doing a non-Marvel and DC dedicated superheroes into dragons episode to finally give some other really cool
Ooh.
superheroes my dragon treatment. Let's get into
Oh,
it, shall we?
and Spawn. So that's going to be the
Hit
last
like
one.
if you want. Subscribe
If you feel like it.
But
By the
either
way, enjoy the show. Boom.
Well, it is easy to look at my world
And of course, we're starting off with Homelander.
and find many examples of dangerous dragons and creatures roaming about ready to devour the innocent. Some insights I have into the past reveal that there have been plenty of other lethal beasts in our history that may have proven even more dangerous than what soars the skies today.
Oh, yeah,
Through
no
a
doubt.
bestiary I acquired from an old... I'm not sure the appropriate term to use, rival, ally, what have you. But anyhow, in his
Frenemy.
book, I was recently reading the legends of a long-lost kingdom
Call him
called
a frenemy.
Valterica that was quite powerful on the world stage in its heyday. They were bolstered by a group of 7 near-godly dragons that protected them and their people. Or at least seemed to in the public eye.
Yeah.
In the early days
Yeah.
of Valterica, the royal family
Seemed
claimed that
to.
these 7 dragons came to them and protected them because their kingdom was the most glorious on the planet, and that they were the chosen people whom the gods loved above all others.
I need to
But
record laugh for
eventually,
that.
the truth of their
Ha!
origins would come to light and start the kingdom on its downfall. You see, this was a time in which magic was much more common in my world, and it was eventually revealed that these dragons had not been individuals unique to any other breed, but that they had been born from more common dragons of my world, then altered at birth with magic, intending to make them more compliant to the rulers of the Valterican kingdom,
Yep.
and even more powerful than the creatures they descended from.
Just
But
like the
worse
show.
still than the initial lie of their creation was the fact that the rulers of these lands were constantly having to lie further to cover up the actions of these dragons,
Oh,
as they
boy.
devoured civilians on a whim and would attack neighboring lands without any provocation. The royals would try to always concoct reasons for the actions of the dragons.
You know, with the way you kind of have the lasers coming from the eyes, it almost looks like Doomsday's Omega beams? Or Omega Ray, whatever he calls it.
To keep
the Omega
civilians
something.
trusting them, but this became harder and harder to do, and as the people began to rebel, the very dragon that was most prominently displayed as the icon of this kingdom, the Homestead Savior, a name that seems ironic in retrospect,
The Homestead
turned
Savior.
on the
Not
leaders
bad.
of Valterica. Some of the people cheered on this beast, not knowing how many civilians it had devoured or burned unprovoked in the past. But
Yeah.
sadly, after it scorched the royal family alive, the citizens would all eventually learn in a very painful way that this creature was never truly on their side.
You're
Because
dead
of
right
how
about
long
that.
ago this occurred, it is not known for certain what breed of dragon this creature had been created from, but the best guesses are either that it was a superior sky dragon prior to its enchantment, or possibly even a dragon thought to have come from another world, a creature that no longer exists today, but who is said to have existed in this same time period. A creature whose descendants I'll discuss in a moment, a species that thankfully is much more
Ooh.
benevolent towards humans than the creature they descend from, as they are so powerful that they were once thought to be invincible. For Homelander as a dragon, I decided to go a route that I
get it.
don't do very often. In fact, I may have only done it with my
I
doctor's
honestly thought he was making a reference to Kryptonians, but no. No, the way he said Invincible at the end, that's a clear nod at the Viltrumites.
strange dragon, and that's having the creature looking directly at us. Oh, actually, I did it recently in my Pokemon mixed with Monster Hunter first episode.
yeah, I
But this
remember
idea
that.
of the dragon looking right at us, but also kind of down at us, really helps this dragon feel like it's more godly and powerful, and it feels very Homelander. One thing that
It does indeed give off a whole kneel be for your master kind of vibe that Metal Sonic wanted.
I think I did really well in this episode, which hopefully you'll see as you go through it, is that these dragons all feel like really good representations of the characters I was adapting. It was also interesting trying to decide when to go with symmetry and when not to. I considered not inking his face with the symmetry tool so that there was a little bit more of line differences between both sides of the head, but I decided to just go with it, ink it with the symmetry tool. Then when I got into shading and lighting, that helped make sure it didn't look too uniform because we have the shadow is coming from the side, so it's looking a bit different on each side of the head. My only complaint about this drawing in the end, I think, is the tower that I had in the background. I was adapting the Vought tower with the 7 logo on it. I was originally going to do that 7...
You know, something you probably could have done is that the Golden Belt Homelander whales, you probably could have done something similar, like you have him, like what you did with his shoulder guard. You could have had him wear like a lot of gold chains and make it look like a belt or something. I don't know. Ideas.
A sort of medieval stained glass kind of look. But there was so much texture in this piece and on that tower already, and it was such a background element that I was eventually just like, whatever, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like it fits as much in this timeline, I'm just gonna make it kind of regular glass that's kind of reflecting the purpley sky. So I don't love that element, but because of how awesome the dragon looks and how that's really a background thing that we're not meant to focus on, I still absolutely love how this one turned out. Though I don't even know if it's my favorite this episode. So let's take a look, then move on to Invincible.
It is still pretty damn good. But let's see what you got for the teenage super Viltrumite, Invincible.
In about the same time period as the Vautarican kingdom's fall, there are legends of a dragon that was more powerful than any other. It could slay a superior sky dragon or monolithic shin god or even a bald fist swinger with its unmatched speed and strength. It was said to have come from beyond the stars, which I cannot verify, though certainly cannot disprove either, given that I have now visited other life-bearing worlds of my realm. This creature, called in legends the Omnimite Dragon, disappeared from our history not long after it came, relatively speaking, but it is believed that it mated with a more common variety of dragon from my world and spawned a new species with much of its own power, though limited compared to its father. The resulting breed is now called the Invincible Might Dragon. It appears far more nimble and lean than other powerful breeds of dragon in my world, but its appearance has proven deceptive, as its kind is able to hold their own against the toughest beasts alive, albeit not always able to defeat them. While these creatures are not abundant in numbers, they do have a much longer lifespan than the average dragon, living around 300 years, leading me to wonder how long the father of these creatures could have survived if it had not disappeared. Now, the reason I discussed a possible link between the Homestead Savior and the ancestors of this species is because there are many similarities between the legends of the Omnimite Dragon and the icon of Vautarica, both in terms of their power, but also in their demeanor, as creatures that appeared benevolent for some time, then later proved otherwise.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Some beast chroniclers have suggested that the Omnimite Dragon was the very same creature taken and enchanted by Vautarican leaders to follow their orders, but others say that they were indeed different, and that this creature was slain, or at least forced back off-world, by its own descendant species. Regardless of what is true, I am very glad that the only evidence of the Omnimite Dragon's time in this world is through the Invincible Might Dragon species, as this breed of dragon has proven to only want to protect humanity from the more dangerous creatures of our world.
Okay, hold on. I like how you actually toned the head spikes in black to match his hair. Very clever.
Now, this is definitely the most simple dragon design in the episode, but I think it might also be my favorite. In fact, going into both the Homelander Dragon and Invincible...
Sometimes going simple is the best.
Invincible Dragon, which were the first two that I drew for this episode, as they were both the most requested. I was honestly, like, almost a little bit bored going into both. I was like, I think they're going to result in some kind of generic designs, and I don't think that's completely wrong. Like, there's nothing super unique about the shape or things about either of these first two dragons, but I think I just executed them really well as some fairly standard shaped dragons and did the right poses for the characters, and I just really love both of these dragons, and I think I might like this one a little bit more than the Homelander one. The pose is dynamic enough to be interesting, but also not so dynamic that it's covering up too much of the design, and it almost feels like it has a little bit of a wings of fire.
I actually kind of like what you did with the wings. Instead of just having it clip very much into the middle of the back, you had it swoop down to then clip into the tail. Well, I don't always see that done when it comes to dragons, so I think you did a damn good job.
Kind
Round
of
of
look. If
applause.
you've seen the covers of those books and the dragon designs in that series, it kind of feels like it has that sort of shape to it. And I think I was actually referencing some Wings of Fire dragons as I was drawing this. But yeah, whatever the reason, I really like this dragon, even if it is a little bit on the simple side. I had also originally planned to do this one as a wyvern, like even when I was partway through the drawing and the roughing stage, I wasn't going to add arms to it. But something about it just made me go, let's throw the arms in, and that kind of made it easier to connect the stories of the Dragon, or Omni-Man dragon, with our Homelander dragon, and connecting those two felt like, that's obviously me doing my own homebrew lore for them. Those characters are from totally different franchises, comic publishers, but there were so many similarities that I was like, I've got these two in the same episode, let's tie their lore together anyway. But yeah, love this result, but we've still got some good stuff coming too, so let's take a look at this one.
Alright. A bit of a simple dragon, like you said, but it turned out to actually be pretty damn good. Thumbs up.
If you're liking this art enough to want any of it as posters, all 4 of the drawings from this video, along with tons of my other art from this channel, are up as posters on the Popcraft Studios Teespring store. Or if you want the high-resolution art as phone backgrounds or desktop backgrounds or something like that, all the high-resolution art from my episodes goes out a day before a video is released on the Popcraft Studios Patreon. So this art's already up there, along with the inks from this episode if you want to color these drawings yourself. Plus, I'm doing weekly podcasts on there. Lots of cool stuff. The Patreon's linked in the description too. Check any of that out if you want, but for now, more dragons. Let's
go. Hellboy. Oop. Damn it, hold on. We'll be right back, folks. And we're back with Hellboy.
Now, it has been brought to my attention that my allies and I may soon be faced with some very dangerous demons. So I've been searching through both my bestiaries for any dragons that may be particularly adept at hunting and slaying such creatures. I even inquired with my allies in a group called the Slayers of Cursed Predators if they knew of any such creatures, and they quickly provided me with some potentially very useful information. You see, they told me that there is an American-based branch of the Slayers of Cursed Predators that refer to themselves as the Bastions of Paranormal Reciprocity and Defense. If a very unusual dragon or creature is too dangerous to be left out in the world, but has proven willing to fight for humanity, they will bring it into their ranks and work alongside it, guiding the creature to do more good for the world in secret. One of the creatures that has fought alongside them for many decades now is a dragon often referred to as the Right Wing of Doom, but is classified as the Hellwing Unrama. It is a crimson wyvern with one wing that is far larger than the other, and is mostly made of very durable biological stone. They claim that this creature was born from a union between a demon and a witch, who made it to bring about the end of our world. But that a founding member of the Bastions, scholar Trevor Brutenholm, found the creature soon after its birth and changed the course of its life. He trained it to help protect people, and since then the creature has aided them in slaying many of the more unusual and unnatural beasts of my world.
For humanity!
That would remind any unfortunate enough to see them why we once feared the dark. The Hellwing is not larger than most dragons, nor is it as powerful as the previously mentioned ones today, but what it lacks in power, it makes up for in determination and, well, apparently stubbornness. The creature has been harmed many times by those it faces, but always gets back up, heals, and continues its fight. It also helps that this creature is...
I guess you could say he gets knocked down, but then he gets up again. You ain't never gonna keep him down.
Completely immune to fire and any heat-related damage, meaning the main projectile threat many dragons possess is useless against it. Allegedly, this creature does have a more dangerous form, in which full horns will burst from its head and a flaming crown will hover above it. But that in this form, it has a much harder time controlling itself, so they try to discourage it from moving into this state. Thankfully, there are things that have proven able to calm it, such as simply putting it in the presence of cats. I am now very curious to meet this creature in person, and, well, it is hard to say whether they'd allow me to call on the Hellwing to assist me in facing demons. It is nice to know of another part demon being that is doing good things for the world around it.
Well,
Now,
not
because we
bad.
have two demon hunting superheroes in this episode, I mean, Hellboy's like demon and paranormal hunting kind of character, I
Yeah.
did heavily consider making this a banter episode between our actual narrator of this episode, Taron Janivar, and Dresden Oakland, because he can be in banter episodes now. But as I
Oh
was
yeah.
planning out the writing for it, I realized that Taron might not be so down yet to just have a chat with Dresden about dragons, because Dresden would have killed Taron in what happened in the most recent Multiverse Tales episode if it wasn't for Sterling, which I could elaborate more on that, but it'll be too confusing for non-Multiverse Tales fans that are here. But anyway, all that aside, I'm so
Yeah,
glad that I
I'm kind of
finally did a
behind.
Hellboy dragon. And for this, I didn't originally go into it planning it to be like a battle between some tentacles that are coming up at it. But as I was looking at some different images of Hellboy and getting reference ideas from different Mike Mignola covers of Hellboy, I saw that there was one for, I think it was the cover of Seeds of Destruction or Seed of Destruction, where there are these
Yeah, Seed
tentacles
of
kind of wrapped
Destruction.
around Hellboy, and I thought that looked really cool. So I was like, let's do something that kind of imitates that cover a little bit and make this a bit more of an action battle kind of drawing. I also did not plan to make Hellboy a wyvern. In fact, going into this episode, I was pretty sure that Hellboy was the only dragon that I was guaranteeing wasn't going to be a wyvern. A few of the other ones I did consider, but he
And
ended up being the
instead,
only one of this episode. And I think it works pretty well. I
yeah.
originally, as I was partway through it, I was like, Hellboy feels like maybe I should have made him bigger, but as I thought about it, Hellboy's not really like a Superman kind of guy. Like, even if you look at images of him in the comics,
He ain't really
he's like
massive.
got a big upper body but kinda small and skinny legs, and he's more of like a Wolverine type, really scrappy kind of character.
Yeah.
So going for a bit of a smaller dragon, I think actually kind of works well for who Hellboy is as
He's
a
strong, but not
character.
massive.
So I don't know if I've mentioned this on the channel before, but Hellboy 2: The Golden Army has been in my top 10 favorite movies since I saw it in theaters when I was a kid. I love both of Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman's Hellboy movies, but the second one just really stands out as one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyway, my only complaint about this drawing, I think, is that I probably could have worked in a little bit more color variety. Like, I thought about making his chest and stomach more of a yellowy color. Maybe I could have even gone with black. And I think if this wasn't a more dynamic battle kind of piece, I probably would have needed to do that. But because we've got him coming down at the tentacles, which add a little bit more color variety into the piece, I think that makes this dragon work as it is here.
Yeah. I see what you're talking about. Kinda wish you somehow had a way to keep his code in, though.
Another dragon that the Slayers of Cursed
Spawn.
Predators mentioned they kept an eye on was a little-known creature called the Unchained Hellspawn. I am surprised I'd never heard of this creature, as they claim it has roamed our world for centuries, and does essentially the very same thing as them and the Right Wing of Doom, seeks out paranormal and vicious beasts and slays them, though with much more ferocity than the Hellwing.
Oh
The
yeah,
Slayers
he's very
said they once
violent.
managed to restrain a dangerous creature called the Hellborn Violator, only to have the Unchained Hellspawn soar onto the scene and tear the restrained creature to pieces.
Oh,
Even the
damn.
Slayers are uncertain of this creature's origins, though they say in their few interactions with it, it has proven to have intelligence on the same level as humans. Based on the fact that there are broken chains seemingly welded to its arms and legs, some in the Slayers have suggested that this creature was either another dragon or possibly even a human transformed into this creature for the bidding of some dark master,
Yep.
and that it broke free and turned on its creators, much like the Homestead Savior.
That's
though
what happened in the
this
comics.
creature has never then made a further turn
And TV show.
against humanity. This creature's exact abilities are difficult to determine because they've never been able to study it for long, but they do know it possesses some shape-shifting abilities, most particularly in the flesh of its wings, which can grow far larger and essentially be manipulated and moved like many extra appendages. They've suggested it may
Like the
be able
coat?
to phase
I
its
mean,
body
cape?
through walls and have some form of psychic abilities, but these have not been confirmed.
Can he walk through walls, disappear, and fly? Is he much more than the other guys? I'm sorry! I'm just full of references right now!
Another ability that has been confirmed, though, is that it can spout green flames that burn so hot they can melt the flesh off another dragon by it simply treading too close. I cannot be certain that I'd be able to track this creature down, but it certainly sounds like if I could, it would make a formidable ally in any demon hunt that I may need to partake in the future.
Damn right.
Now Spawn here, I absolutely love the rendering on this one. The head in particular I think turned out super cool, but I do
I
think...
actually got a green on the head, and I kind of like how you have it almost melted together, kind of, because Spawn doesn't really have a mouth, though he is able to kind of stretch his head and rip a mouth open, and which has been done in both the comics and the animated TV show. Not the live-action movie because I never watched it, but you know.
I think the pose
Still,
lets
love
it down a little bit. The other ones, I feel like I really nailed it with the poses for them, but this one feels a little bit lacking in comparison. I still love this drawing, and it's always a great episode when I love my least favorite drawing in an episode, because I do still really like this one, but it just... Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn, who is also the co-creator of Venom, if I'm remembering correctly, has a very dynamic style for the way he drew Spawn and when he drew Spider-Man, and I think I probably should have tried to reflect that a little bit more in this Spawn dragon. I also, partway through this drawing, realized that I made the wings way too small because Spawn's cape is essentially supposed to be like a Marvel symbiote where it can like transform into bigger shapes and like wrap people up and do all this crazy stuff. And a lot of the time in Todd McFarlane's drawings of him or other artists' renditions of him, the cape is like just going wild up behind him. And in this case, the wings are supposed to represent Spawn's cape. So I made them bigger, but I probably could have gone even further with it and done something way more interesting with them. But I am glad I at least made them bigger than I had them originally in this drawing. I also originally considered having the dragon's mouth closed. Most dragon drawings, I always have the dragon's mouth open. But I think this one, it could have been cool if I had the mouth closed and then it's like it kind of peels open, like it's shape-shifting open, like a Venom symbiote kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I
gave
said.
up on that early on and was like, I'm just going to have the mouth open and have some kind of like strands connecting the lower jaw and upper jaw.
Boom!
Even if I do think the pose lets this one down compared to some of the others, I'm still very happy with it, and I hope you all like it as the last dragon of this episode.
Alright, I'll have to give it to Spawn to be #1 of this video. Now let me move my camera back over the hill. Ah, there we go.
If you enjoyed this and you want more superhero dragons, I highly recommend checking out my latest Avengers as Dragons episode, or maybe my most recent DC characters as Dragons episode. But I'll also link the full playlist of what I consider to be the best dragon episodes on this channel, because I've done tons of them, but there are some that just sit above the rest. But give me some other ideas of other superheroes or characters you'd like to see turned into dragons. I am considering doing a full Invincible episode when the show comes out in a couple weeks. Not necessarily a dragon episode, but something with those characters. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course we're ending this video on some kind of positive or inspirational note. And the thought I want to leave people with is a quote I heard in a motivational speech recently, which is that a beast is someone who can go through hell and be grateful that their legs are working. Essentially saying when you're working towards something and going through a really difficult time, one of the best ways to help yourself keep going is to focus on the things that you have to be grateful for. Reminding yourself of the good even in bad times is such a great way to stay motivated. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.
You know, that kind of reminds me of the quote, that reminds me of the quote from Gargoyles. Pay a man enough and he'll walk barefoot through hell. Well, anyway, folks, that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.